Major support for Carolina Business Review provided by Colonial Life, providing benefits to employees to help them protect their family, their finances, and their futures. High Point University, the premier life skills university, focused on preparing students for the world as it is going to be. And Sunoco, a global manufacturer of consumer and industrial packaging products and provider of packaging services with more than 300 operations in 35 countries.
Spring in the Carolinas represents renewal, optimism, and a new start. And it's just plain fun to be in the Carolinas during the spring and summer. I am Chris William, and welcome again to the most widely watched and longest running program on Carolina business, policy, and public affairs. This program is no different. We will unpack these issues facing us here in this spring. And also later on, the CEO of one of the nation's oldest Black-led banks. It is M&F Bank in Durham. James Sills will join us, and we hope you stay with us beginning right now.
Gratefully acknowledging support by Martin Marietta, a leading provider of natural resource-based building materials, providing the foundation upon which our communities improve and grow. Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina, an independent licensee of the Blue Cross and Blue Shield Association. Visit us at southcarolinablues.com. The Duke Endowment, a private foundation enriching communities in the Carolinas through higher education, healthcare, rural churches, and children's services. On this edition of Carolina Business Review, Holly Childs, President and CEO of Wilmington Downtown Inc., Mark Farris, President and CEO of the Greenville Area Development Corporation, and special guest James Sills, President and CEO of M&F Bank.
Welcome again to our program, and we're glad to have Mark Farris back from upstate South Carolina. We also welcome Holly Childs from Wilmington in the Port City in North Carolina. Holly, welcome to the program. I don't want to be too personal, Holly, but you've got a fresh set of eyes. I mean, you literally just arrived in the Carolinas. What's it like compared to what you were? And please don't play to your audience. Tell us.
Yeah, I do have a very fresh set of eyes. I actually moved in on New Year's Eve. So I tell the mayor that I was the one that put us over the top for being the #1 inbound destination in the country. That it was my final number that rounded that out. But yeah, it's great. I think Wilmington, it's the right time. There's a lot of things coming together. We have a lot of just really good dynamics around development right now. And so there's a lot of opportunity. I'm excited about what I see. And I've been to not to Wilmington other than vacation, but I've been in North Carolina a couple of times in my past. I went to Wake Forest. So I've spent a little time in North Carolina.
Okay. Yeah, you know a little bit about it. Mark, you get the first pitch. Let's talk about COVID. I mean, how can we not, right? This thing has been living with us now for months, and just the feeling and the oppressiveness of the public health crisis. But do you get a sense now, Mark? People have been anxious. Businesses want to open. The vaccine is being widely deployed now. The spring and summer months are coming upon us. Would you expect, and I hesitate to use this term, that we would be back to normal within 60 or 90 days or some semblance of it?
Yeah, I would say no. Certainly, I think there's going to be an attempt to get back to a new normal. I certainly don't think it's going to be the way it was. I guess I've seen some events being scheduled for summer, maybe late summer, more likely fall. A lot of the events, at least in the spring, seem to have been pushed back to the fall, at least some that I've seen. So I think there'll be a slower return of confidence, especially in things like tourism and travel. But that may take as much as another 6 months to a year to rebound. But I think overall that there's a slow bit of confidence being restored. And right, we're all frustrated. We're anxious to get back in the in-person meetings. I know certainly I am, but there is some trust that's got to be restored.
Holly, is there some sense or evidence of this activity building to a noticeable degree for you?
I think if you would have seen us on St. Patrick's Day, you would have thought that there wasn't a pandemic at all, unfortunately. People were so excited. I think it's the pent-up demand of people wanting to get out. And we've seen our tourism numbers, of course, major decline. It's been interesting because our numbers are up so much at the beaches that's carried the downtown and convention center district. So people have been the hotels and the tourism and the beaches has been through the roof as people kind of want to go places where they can space out and get outside with nature. So I think it's going to be a different kind of a new normal, right, where people are looking for opportunities to get together, but in more mindful ways.
Is it concerning when you see those crowds at the beaches and even along the boardwalks along the beaches around safe distancing, or is that not as big of an issue and it's more about a personal experience now?
No, I think it is a concern. I mean, I think certainly whenever I go over there, it concerns me that people aren't taking it as seriously, particularly people that may live in those areas and they're kind of used to that and they're used to the crowds and they're pretend, you go over there and you see you're one of 100 people that are around that has a mask on. It's concerning. Yes. I think that if people would just hold on a little longer, just another, like you said, 60 or 90 days, then, people will have vaccines and be safer. But until that point, to see that kind of activity is scary.
Mark and Holly, like you both to weigh in on this, the things that portend real growth and real development are things like commercial activity. And I'm talking about commercial development activity. Is there, when I think of Greenville in the upstate of South Carolina, of course, Greenville-Spartanburg has been a go-go growth area for a while now. But specific to Greenville, Unity Park has been on the dockets to expand toward the west side and take what has been not a desirable area and really make it part of it. But I'm using Unity Park as a proxy for development. Will we see more of those larger scale development projects now come back and be re-energized?
Yeah, I think so. Certainly the COVID has shown us all that we appreciate outdoor spaces. So Unity Park in Greenville, certainly the beaches in Wilmington are important to people, more important maybe than they realize. So for us at least, there'll be a focus on land use. Both the city and the county of Greenville have new land use plans. We're trying to meet the growth demands appropriately by providing some of those open spaces. The Swamp Rabbit Trail extension is exciting for us. And Chris, companies want that. The companies that we recruit, the corporate headquarters, the office, especially those kind of operations, they love that, being available to get outside and to access open space areas. So I see more of that kind of development. Certainly the commercial is going to continue. We've got, I think, another 2,500 multifamily units planned and under construction right now in Greenville. That's going to continue. But yeah, I think there was going to be a greater emphasis on creating that sense of place that every community wants.
Holly, are you going to have enough development in Wilmington and the port city to be able to fill that space?
We do. It's amazing to me, the size of Wilmington. And I've been in bigger cities, like you said. I've kind of done a bit of a world tour before getting here, but I was in Pittsburgh and Cincinnati previously. And, those cities are 2 to 3 times the size of Wilmington. But the amount of development that's going on here, particularly around the riverfront and the downtown, it's unbelievable. I mean, just as Mark said, we're getting hundreds and then, just unit after unit, project after project of new apartments, new condos, new residential. And it's because of the energy of downtown. I mean, I think a lot of people want that. They want the energy of a city, but they love a smaller city now because the bigger cities have become a more dangerous place with COVID. So, I think it's really played to Wilmington's strengths in that way. And we've seen a lot of investment too in downtown as far as outdoor and open spaces. So I like, Mark talking about the trails. I think that's vital to economic development attraction. We've seen the city invest in the parks. They're getting ready to do some major upgrades to our river walk, which was just voted second, number 2 river walk in the country. I don't know how we got beat by Detroit, but I'm trying to get over that. But there's a lot of investment going into outdoor spaces and places for people that are lifestyle amenities, because we know, just as Mark and all economic development folks know, that people can work from anywhere now. We've seen that throughout this pandemic. So we want to make a special place for them.
That term, if you build it, they will come, seems to have applied to the Carolinas. Mark, Google announced a couple of big things in the last couple of weeks. A $500 million investment, or rather, I should say, reinvestment in the Berkeley County Google site down in the low country across the state from you. And also they announced potentially 1,000 person engineering hub in Durham, which of course is a hot city and metro as well. So is this a proxy for more things to come, or is the Google announcements one-off?
No, I think there's of course, the idea that we would have more emphasis on data centers, cybersecurity, that's going to continue, no doubt about it. And certainly we're going to see more of that development. There's a theory in economic development called agglomeration, which says, once you have one type of industry, you're likely to get another similar type of industry and then build on that. So I think those communities will see that. Certainly, I think we'll all experience it. Even in Greenville, we just announced our first new Tier 3 data center a couple of months ago, a company called DC Block. And I think that's certainly going to be a trend that accelerates.
Just quickly, Mark, quick follow-up. You think South Carolina developers and commerce have learned a tough lesson around, not that they didn't think about this before, but automotive and aerospace, clearly two industries that took it on the chin over the last 24 months or so. Is South Carolina expanding the portfolio of industries?
Yeah, certainly. And I think we're poised, Chris, to build off of that. So in Greenville, we have the CUI card, Center for Automotive Research. We need to figure out what the next steps in mobility are going to be, and we have that to help us, right? So that's going to continue. I think the evolution of the automobile is going to continue towards that mobility factor, and we're going to be benefiting from that. And certainly commercial has gone down, Chris, but defense is not at all. We've got F-16 now being assembled in Greenville, and the orders for it have been really high. So the defense side of things in the aviation industry, at least, has been doing pretty well.
M&F Bank in Durham is not just the second oldest bank, black-led bank in this country, but it is well over 100 years old now and is meaningful in many ways, and not just for a diverse population. Joining us now is the President and Chief Executive Officer of M&F Bank and M&F Bank Corp. We welcome James Sills. President Sills, welcome to the dialogue.
Thank you, Chris. It's great to be here with you today.
Sir, let's start with banking in general. 2020 had to be tough on a lot of banks, not just because of low interest rates, but everything else that happened in society and the culture. How would you describe 2020 and M&F's bank performance last year?
With the pandemic and all the social unrest, believe it or not, we actually had a very good year. Our total assets were up 16% or $44 million. Our total loans increased 3%. And overall, our delinquency was below our peer groups and significantly below 1% for the year. So even though it was a challenging year, we actually had a very good year in a challenging environment.
How do you leverage that for this year and beyond?
We're riding a wave of momentum. We actually did open up almost 2,700 accounts in 2020, and I'm really excited about 2021, especially with the recent capital investments from the four largest banks. So that'll allow us to grow to approximately $430 million.
Mm-hmm. I want to open this up now for questions. Holly, question?
Yeah, so Jim, it's great to meet you. First of all, I'm glad you could join us here, and I think I really admire your bank. I mean, I certainly did a little bit of research when finding out about you coming onto the show, and that you've had 25 years as outstanding Community Reinvestment Act rating. So, I mean, could you talk a little bit about how you've managed to hold on to that? What some of the initiatives have been that have been important in doing that? Because we're really anxious here to reach out to the community and do more community development type projects, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about how to do that.
Thank you, Holly, for that question. As you stated, we've had an outstanding CRA rating for over 25 plus years. We're actively engaged in the community. We lend to low and moderate income areas all throughout the state of North Carolina, so that helps achieve that type of rating. We also provide access to capital to all different kinds of businesses, specifically small and medium-sized businesses, nonprofits, and churches. And we perform a lot of financial literacy and outreach in the communities that we serve. And so that's how we're able to maintain that rating for over 25 plus years.
Mark?
Yeah, Jim, you've got a great background in IT certainly, and the M&F folks have a fantastic digital platform. But yet you serve some rural and underprivileged areas of your service territory. You find the lack of internet broadband an obstacle to creating that customer service model that you have been known for?
It's a challenge because, everybody doesn't have a smartphone. Everyone does not have access to the internet. But we still have our branch locations, but you would be amazed that our customer base is adopting the mobile technologies and online banking and utilizing our ATMs. And so given the pandemic, it really forced a lot of consumers to just think differently in terms of what are other alternative channels, delivery channels that they can utilize to obtain their banking information.
Hey, Jim, you almost, and it's not very technical, but M&F success around community reinvestment, M&F success about penetration into not just lower income, but diverse neighborhoods almost makes it seem like it's easy to do. Many of the larger banks won't touch some of the lending or even some of the traditional banking because they're worried about margins, or they're worried about risk, or they're worried about loan payback. How do you navigate yourself through that to be a good banker and a good steward of not just the community, but also of the stakeholder and the shareholder in the bank?
Chris, it's a challenge every day. We really focus on providing a lot of handholding to our customers, and we think that's the difference. People in general are intimidated by financial institutions, and so I think it's incumbent on us to provide financial literacy information, a lot of handholding, and if we're unable to make the loan, so to speak, we need to tell that person why we're unable to do it at this time and what they may need to do to maybe improve their credit or their financial situation. So when they come back to us or another financial institution, they'll be more successful the next time.
Mm-hmm. Holly, go ahead.
Follow up to the last question, Jim. I wanted to kind of dig a little deeper too into your particular, if there are mechanisms or methods you could share with us on rollout to communities, particularly communities of color, minority and women-owned businesses. We're really hyper-focused now on trying to make sure we've got a microloan program we're getting ready to roll out to WDI. And previously we've had large capital improvement loan programs that have benefited developers, but we really haven't been as focused on small businesses. And for us, it's important now, post-COVID, to really realign that money. So we're taking the set aside that we had for our larger program and turning it into, we just got approval by council on March 2nd, to turn it into a microloan program to help bolster small businesses. And we want to really reach out to minority communities, to women in businesses. And is there a specific way that you have found to be successful in reaching those target populations and trying to make sure that everyone's actively engaged?
Holly, we are a CDFI, which is a community development financial institution. And so institutions like ours, we partner with nonprofit partners, because a lot of times they're very connected to the target customer that you're looking to try to help. And I just think that's critical if you're trying to work with people in the community that may not be the ones that you see every day, that you partner with some strategic partners with nonprofits in your specific community.
Yes.
And I know that certainly a lot of communities that you serve are doing some innovative things when it comes to encouraging minority business development. What are some of the more notable ones that you've seen and worked with?
Mark, I think the biggest thing is really providing the financial literacy, and also if there are specific programs that are out in the marketplace, like the Paycheck Protection Program, and really setting up Zoom calls or webinars to really help people understand the rules of the game, so to speak, and get that capital to them. So that's worked very effectively for us. Again, we do a lot of outreach. We do a lot of seminars for community groups. And we also, before the pandemic, we used to do a lot of tours. And so we'd invite people into the bank just to say, hey, this is what we offer. These are our products and services. And this is how a bank can actually assist you in reaching your financial goals.
Jim, former life of yours, and I hesitate even to call it a former life because you have a deep bench of knowledge around information and information technology. You were the CIO for the state of Delaware. So you straddle this idea of being a traditional banker, if you don't mind me explaining it this way, traditional banker, but also someone that understands the fintech side of that relationship. And fintech has come under fire because traditional banks say the fintech companies don't have nearly the oversight and the regulation that the banks do, traditional banks do, so it's not a fair playing field. But so comment on that and comment on how you find this balance between being in the fintech space possibly and also not losing what a traditional bank does bring to a dinner table.
You know, based on my background, I actually have to play in both spaces. And, you know, as a traditional bank, I want to make sure that our customers have access to, you know, various apps that will allow them to access our products and services, but also improve the customer experience. And as you pointed out, a lot of the fintechs have that secret sauce of making that connection with the customers a little bit more efficiently than some of the traditional banks. Mm-hmm. And so I just think it's important that all bankers embrace technology because, as you're all aware, we're eventually going to do everything on our smartphones. And so I think banks need to embrace fintech and identify the right types of fintech partners that make sense for their bank and their customer base.
Jim, do you think fintech can be, I don't want to use the term saving grace, but can it help? You know, traditional banks say that we've got so much oversight. Government regulation is exhaustive and fintech is out here running circles around us. So could there be some way that traditional banks lose some of that oversight and fintech picks up some of that regulation? What does that look like in the future?
I think in the future, you will see more mergers of fintechs with traditional banks. For example, SoFi just purchased a bank out in California a couple of weeks ago. So I think you'll see more of that particular model on a go-forward basis. I do think the regulators will be providing a little bit more oversight on some of the fintech companies. A lot of them are trying to obtain what they call fintech charters. So that will subject them to some additional regulation in the future.
Okay, Mark?
Jim, what does the next generation of depositors look like at M&F Bank, and what are you all doing to attract them?
Yeah, I love that question, Mark. You know, we're a community bank, and we do have a number of seniors that make up our customer base. And so, for example, we started a millennial advisory board. And so this is a group of individuals all throughout the state that advise us on marketing, social media, fintech, and just what we need to do to attract that type of demographic to our institution. So that's been a best practice. We actually met with our Millennial Advisory Board last night, and they just provide so many great insights on what our bank should be doing to attract younger people to our institution.
That's a great idea.
Holly, we have about 2 minutes left.
I think that's a great idea. We actually just hired a couple of UNCW interns for our office, and the energy and the ideas around marketing and Instagram and things that I certainly never would have thought to do to market Wilmington downtown has been, just incredible. I wanted to ask you just about, speaking of government, but both good and bad government interference or participation in our lives. Could you speak a little bit about the PPP program and kind of how you've reached out and marketed that to small and medium businesses and the results that you've seen of that program, and maybe anything that you think we should be doing differently with the PPP program or more of?
Yeah, the PPP program I actually thought was a great program. Specifically for our bank. It provided access to capital to small and medium-sized businesses, nonprofits, and churches. And that really was our customer base. Although we're located in the 5 largest markets of North Carolina, we made loans in 16 different cities in North Carolina. And also there's a minority-owned bank in South Carolina, and they did the same thing, Optus Bank. It was a combination of answering the phone, hosting Zoom calls to let people know about all the different forms and the documents that are necessary to actually apply for the loan. And we're doing the loan again. We're doing the program again for round 2. But last year, because of our efforts, we were able to save about 1,400 jobs in North Carolina. So it was a program that I think was pretty good for North Carolinians and South Carolinians.
Sorry to interrupt you, Jim. Thank you for joining us. We're out of time. That always happens. We get momentum going and we stop. But we're thrilled you came on the program. Congratulations! Not just the big investments from the large banks, but you got your wind at your back, and we hope that continues for you and also the communities you're in. But I hope you'll come back so we can keep this dialogue going.
Thank you very much for having me today.
Yeah, thank you. Holly, welcome. Good to have you in North Carolina. Hope you do well. Mark, always nice to have you. Best of luck in the upstate of South Carolina. And good to see you all. If you have any questions or comments, or you'd like to watch any of our hundreds of shows, go to carolinabusinessreview.org and make a comment. Thank you. And until next week, good night.
Major funding for Carolina Business Review provided by High Point University, Martin Marietta, Colonial Life, the Duke Endowment, Sunoco, Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina, and by viewers like you. Thank you.